Welcome back to Bright and Ambitious, a podcast dedicated to helping you write, revise, and publish your next story. I'm your host, Kailey Bright.
And I'm the producer of the show, Joel Seymour.
I'm really excited to talk about updates today.
Yes, you have been very busy.
Have I?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's a quarter of the way through the year.
There we go.
I figured it out. It's been a minute since it was just you and me talking.
I'm very glad it's just you and me talking.
I am. You go on, say it. I'll cut it.
No, I was trying to actually say, I'm really excited to talk to you, but I just kept laughing. I was like, oh, let me try that again.
I really enjoy my time with you.
It has been a while, but I'm glad that we're kind of having a moment of reprieve.
Yeah.
To just update our audience on the goals that we discussed in January.
Mm-hmm. In addition to those goals updates, we're also going to be covering more writing tips as well.
Yes.
We're going to be exploring how to choose a story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like if you're going to be a writer, typically, especially in fiction, you have a very large reservoir of imaginations that you tend to daydream about.
Sure, but we need to start with goal updates.
Update. Sorry, I'm reminded of Unsolved Mysteries. And anytime there was like, I don't know who my family is, come help me, there would always be like a update.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. Yes.
And then they're like 90. They're like, we're reunited. I was like, oh my goodness. Like this is so exciting because this hardly happens in Unsolved Mysteries. But at the same time, you're like, dang, that's so sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, that's a tangent. That's just a plug for our new sponsor, Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
Not the reboot, the original one I watched on television.
Yeah.
Somehow we got sponsored by that.
Yeah.
But let's start with the things that have been consistent. Goals that we've been achieving consistently for the past 4 months.
Yes.
Our podcast, for example.
Our podcast. I'm so happy with this podcast.
Me too. I've gotten a lot of good notes as well, which makes me feel very good, not gonna lie.
Yes, I know that y'all are loving these little animated figures that you're currently seeing if you're on YouTube or on Spotify. Spotify has it as well.
Oh, that's exciting.
I know.
I am very, very thankful for the people who listen to this podcast as consistently as we put it out.
We've had some really good conversations, some of which you haven't even heard yet.
That's true.
And we got a lot more exciting, super, super exciting episodes planned. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's not the only thing that we've been doing consistently.
Commissions have been consistent.
Oh, they're so good.
They're so good. Yeah. Truly, there is nothing more rewarding than seeing your characters come to life visually, because you have them in your mind for forever and you want to implant that into other people's minds. And then somehow someone comes and actually does that for you.
Yeah.
If you'd like to see these commissions, I post them once a month on my Instagram and TikTok at Kailey Bright Writes. I'm trying to get better at my Pinterest board, but I typically use that for fun, not business.
They are so incredible. As they've been coming in, we've just been squealing. We've been squealing.
We've been clapping, covering our mouth, kicking our feet, throwing up.
Yep.
Jinx. Yeah, we have up until June in the works, so that's really exciting. It's not only been consistent, but I've been able to reach out to artists pretty regularly. And everyone's schedules are very different. I have one that's been in the works for 2 months, and then another one that was done in 10 days.
Right.
So it's an interesting experience getting to figure out how the commission process works and understanding different art styles and figuring out how I can essentially commission these people in a way that is going to be the most impactful, because some art styles are better for different scenes or characters or even AUs, for example.
Yeah.
Get ready for the O's.
Oh my gosh. I'm loving it.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. We've also been doing events?
We have. I mean, by the time this podcast airs, this episode in particular, like I will have 2 events completed this year. So that's 2 out of 7. The goal is 7. And I've already been accepted into 2 more this year. 3 if I'm being presumptuous.
We're waiting. And that's the biggie.
I have them listed out. Like that's the important thing, is making sure you have everything listed out of what you want, especially when it comes to events, because typically applications are going to be well in advance of the event itself. I think next in the running has to be me applying to 2 awards this year. It hasn't been a priority for like the back half of this year. I think I'm perfectly okay with applying to these 2. I applied to the Realm Awards, which is like a Christian author-based award. The second one was the Next Generation Indie Book Awards. I decided to hold off on the BIBA Awards for this year, the BIBA Awards, just because I am republishing, and in their rules and regulations, you actually can submit republished works. As there's like, I think it even says like there has to be like a 10% like improvement rate, and I think I have very much met that quota. So I'm just going to apply next year when I have all my typos essentially removed, and I have
the bonus chapters.
I have the bonus chapters, and I have the writing to essentially like the writing style I have now.
Yeah.
And then I would say like the last great thing is republishing the Unseries into the Iridian trilogy is going strong. I've been able to keep up with my timeline pretty well. I did have to adjust it when Catalina cut in during March, but even with that adjustment, I'm still very much on track.
Yeah.
Like so far, what I've done is I've read the first 2 books on printed paper. I edited them with a pen, and then I added said edits to Unfortunate's Word doc. So right now, I am adding the edits to Unravel's Word doc, writing bonus chapters, and I've commissioned the artist Tamdri to start on the internal artwork.
I'm so ready for this to be like the ultimate collector's edition of these books, because genuinely, like the excerpts of the bonus chapters that you have shown me have been so exciting. Again, squealing.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's really excited for the Leo and Skylar first kiss in Unity.
Yes, I wasn't sure if that was a spoiler if I said that one specifically, but that's absolutely the one I was thinking about.
I don't think so. I think I talk about it enough on my social media for it to be okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's one of the bonus chapters. And the other ones are, I'm so excited about, I'm going to stop talking. I'm about
to say, that would truly spoil things if you started continuing.
Yeah.
The thing that really fell, right, was shelving Catalina.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in my previous episode during the intro, but there wasn't really any time to explain why.
Yeah. And when you say shelving it, what you don't mean is giving up on that story.
No, but I could. Let me explain.
Okay.
So like what happened is that I tried to have my own personal NaNoWriMo in March. But after the first few chapters, it became increasingly clear that the story I wanted to write wasn't coming together, like at all. There was just a lot of difficulty trying to figure out the themes, or rather knowing what the themes were, but then trying to mold it into the story became very, very difficult. And I realized that I wasn't prepared for this story as much as I thought I would be. Especially because, I boast about my word count, and I couldn't even write a novella within a month. Like, it was crushing my soul. And so I decided that since writing was becoming an absolute chore, I had to stop. I just had to stop fully.
Yeah. Halted
the project.
Which was a very difficult decision.
It was. I was laying on the floor for quite a while.
You were.
It's like that scene from iCarly where she puts a chair in the shower.
Yeah, exactly.
That was me. Just like for 3/4 of March.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I'm trying to be honest about it because that has never happened to me before, especially as we get into talking about choosing a story within all the imaginations that you have. I really, really thought that this would be my next work, but on like at this point, it definitely won't be.
It's one of those things, like you said, if you tried to force yourself to write this story regardless, it wasn't going to be the story that it deserved to be. And if you want to kind of hear how that can actually help your writing, check out the last episode.
I've taken a step back because obviously I thought that this was going to be my next book. While I was doing Pinterest research, if you will, I learned about V.E. Schwab.
Okay.
Yeah, she's written a lot. What she does is she answers 3 questions regarding her main character, followed by a mantra that the author is intending to break during the story. And I looked through other story ideas I've had in the past that I've just kind of kept on in the back of my mind. And I started doing these story outline exercises. So for example, I have this idea in the backlog that's titled False Wolf. And in this exercise, what I did is I returned to the story idea, where it's essentially about a girl who is a werewolf, or at least she's supposed to be. She lives in a pack of werewolves, but for some reason she cannot transform and is considered a cursed being. And so
it's such a good, I love how like it's some of your concepts after Unfortunate is just like
Nora, but in yellow instead of red.
I was going to say, like, let's have fun with mythological creatures.
Oh, that's very true. I do like mythological creatures.
Yeah, but also that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just like the very basic premise that I had. Like, I remember I literally had like a few chapters that I reread.
And this was like in high school when you
all
came
of
up
these
with
are,
this.
yeah. Absolutely. And it's actually really refreshing to kind of go back and see what I wrote as a teenager or even younger than that and just being like, wow, it's not nostalgic, but it is certainly like hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting off track. That is the premise, right? So for 3 questions and a mantra. Our main character, her name is Aurora. So what does Aurora fear? Aurora fears for her mother's well-being and safety. And the reason why is because her mom, once finding out that her daughter could not transform, should have either killed or abandoned her, and instead kept this supposedly cursed child within the pack. Mm-hmm. So her mother has been demoted, and essentially her life has been seemingly way harder with Aurora in her life. And so she's constantly in fear of her mother's well-being and safety because she exists, right?
Yeah.
What does Aurora want? This is the second question. Aurora wants to be able to transform into a wolf. That is her blight, and that is why she is ostracized within her pack.
Mm-hmm. That would also ensure that her mom stays safe.
Yeah. The third question is, what is Aurora willing to do to get it? And by get it, I mean getting what she wants. So I answered, she is willing to do anything the pack council asks each year to stay within the pack and provide for her mother. And so that was a really interesting thing to figure out, because in the original drafts, especially as a child, like it was just the idea that this girl couldn't transform into a wolf, but her twin sister could. And that was difficult and frustrating. And
yeah, it was interesting. Like you went back to that original chapter and it was just like, oh, that's such a cool premise. And then there was nothing else. It was just personally interesting to see you answer those questions, and then suddenly a whole story started to surround that premise in a really cool way.
Yeah, I mean, like I first started with the character. Like I really was just like, all right, who is our main character? Her name is Aurora. Okay, what's Aurora's deal? I have her, and everything branches out from there. And it's the same for Unfortunate.
Yeah.
So lastly, we have our philosophy or mantra, right? And it's meant to be broken within the story. Aurora's mantra / philosophy is, I am a cursed being. And my goal, if I were to write this, is for her to realize that she is not, in whatever way that looks. I'd have no idea, but that is the goal.
Yeah. By answering those questions, that is how you're able to get from this is a cool idea to now you're able to actually write out an entire like story outline.
Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't made a chapter by chapter outline with just these 3 questions. Like, I did continue to flesh out some of the characters. Like, I included Iris, which is Aurora's older sister. She's a rising female warrior within the pack. She provides, but is ashamed of her family and lineage because of Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, there's that dynamic at play. How is that going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I'm very much still just in the imagination phase where I'm just picturing these characters either interacting with each other or being pressed in difficult situations.
Right.
I feel like that's just a really great start. It's a really great way to center yourself while you're having all of these imaginations.
Right. It's like these ideas for stories are just different balloons. They're fun, they're cool ideas, but if you don't have any way to tether them or to ground them, then they're just going to float away. They're not going to matter. You know, being able to actually like explore these ideas, you're able to actually hold on to them and develop them so that they can be something more.
I do like your balloon analogy, but I also disagree with it.
Mm.
The only reason I say that is because there's a lot of things, for example, this false wolf story that I have written 10 years ago, and I still remember them.
That's fair. For me, I'm very much different.
Really? You lose ideas?
Oh, yeah. I remember like there would be multiple ideas that I would have of like, man, that would be a cool story. That'd be a cool story. Oh, well. And then I would just like forget it. And there would be times where I'd try to think about like, oh, I had some sort of story that was related to that. And I just wouldn't be able to remember it. And it wasn't until our screenwriting class in college that we took together, where right around then I was being more intentional about taking the concepts that would pop into my head and actually writing them down and asking these, not these questions specifically, but exploring these questions of just like, okay, that's the premise, but who's the character that we're really following? And by asking those questions, I was able to actually develop a larger story around it. And then I was actually, because I had a character grounding this concept, I was able to actually write them. And, you know, those scripts that I wrote are some of the stories I'm most proud of. But there's a lot of ideas that I've had that I really liked that I just could not for the life of me recall anymore.
That sounds very sad.
It is. It really, really is.
Then you're definitely not going to like my first point in terms of choosing a story. One of the largest reasons why I continued with Unfortunate in particular was because it haunted me. I imagined it constantly. It started with me on the bus, and it's raining, and I'm imagining and daydreaming as I often do. And I just picture a girl working in the rain. And my next immediate question is, why are you working in the rain? And that is literally how it starts.
Yeah.
That's how the book starts.
Has always started.
Has always started. Kind of.
Oh.
No, actually has not.
I took a swing.
It's how the book starts.
Yes.
Like, even if I wanted to let it go, it wouldn't have. So I definitely think you should decide to stick with a story that haunts you. I mean, if you're constantly thinking about it, you might as well put your thoughts to paper, right?
Yeah. The more I've interacted with you, the more that has started to become what happens to me.
Oh no, it's contagious.
It's contagious. And it's a great thing because there's a story that I've been thinking about a lot that whenever I sit down, I'm just like, I want to write something. I will start to think and explore more and more questions for a story about trying to solve a king's murder and his mysterious resurrection as well.
It's a really cool idea.
It's a very cool idea. And you're right. Like some of those older stories, I'm proud of them, but like I would have lost them otherwise. This one has stuck with me and haunts me.
Yeah, I mean, getting into that as well, like, I'm curious, like, is the reason why this story haunts you, is it related to any themes you need to share or explore personally? Or is it just something that is really fun? Because honestly, both are good answers.
Yeah, I think honestly it is a bit of both, because for me, it's this really cool idea of like a twist on the murder mystery of how did this king get resurrected, and let alone who murdered him. Like, that's an interesting concept and I want to explore it more and more. But as I tried to figure out those questions, I ended up stumbling back into themes that I have explored a lot in other areas as well. Like how the root of evil often goes beyond the actors who bring it to reality. That's a theme that is really important to me, and has somehow bled into this story as well.
I mean, I think you brought up a very interesting point about how you were like, this is a really cool concept that I want to share with people. Because I feel like anger or frustration could actually lead to a really cool story. Like when you either watch or read something that you disagree with, you're like, oh, I think I could do this better. Or like you want to subvert tropes that you're tired of. You actually have control over that in your own story.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I hope I'm saying that in a way that isn't like pretentious.
No, I agree. Like, I do think that that's very true. We can often get into, especially with bigger projects, like I think people can get into like a reviewer's mindset where it's just like, I wish that they had done something different. You know, I wish that they had gone a different way with this show. Or like, that was such a cool premise. Why did they waste it on that? And the answer is, well, why don't you make that story a reality? You can do it.
Yeah, and it's actually a surprisingly strong marketing tool right now.
Yeah.
With like the idea that you have to market your content by telling other people how similar it is to other content.
Yeah. Or even taking it a step further, like that's why fan fiction is so popular and is so powerful.
Yeah, like that's what I was exactly thinking about. Like how if you're upset that Katara and Zuko didn't get together, guess what?
You will not be sparse on reading content.
Yeah. I mean, there's also like real life published works that are based off of Rilo fanfic. They just reworked it to be either contemporary or fantasy romance.
Yeah.
So truly the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
If you like oysters like I do.
Yeah, exactly. And if not, then the world's your grilled cheese.
If you like grilled cheeses like I don't.
Very true. But yeah, no, like I think it is. Like it's what haunts you. Is it a theme? Is it a premise? Is it even what you would do differently in a different story? Any of those things is a perfect thing to jump off of and really explore. And I think, if I may just kind of interject one more, I think that if you're the kind of person that like I was for a long time, where it's just like, oh, I have these really cool ideas, but it's hard for me to like remember and to hold on to those ideas. Do the process that we talked about earlier. Ask those 3 questions and find a character, you know, in the same way that it's harder to give up an animal once you know its name. Like once you name a puppy, it's yours. It's done.
Yeah.
It's over. But like in the same way, once you have a character connected to the premise, it makes it way more difficult to forget, and it makes it way more difficult to give up.
Girl, write it down.
Write it down.
Write it down. Get yourself a jig.
Like go on a date with your main character.
No, don't go on a date with your main character. Girl, write it down.
Write it down. You
have a Notepads app on your phone. I know you do. I know you got that Google Doc. Everyone got an email. If this episode's not called Girl, Write It Down, I'll be upset.
No, that's 100% the thing. I'm looking at it right now on the thumbnail, your face, and then Girl, Write It Down.
Yeah, Girl, Write It Down. I think like another good point that I feel like we kind of underestimate, or maybe we take for granted, honestly, is the genre you gravitate towards. Like for me, I've always been a young adult fantasy person. That is the genre I gravitate towards the most. I think I read 90% of just young adult fantasy.
Yes.
I cannot get enough.
Yes.
And so when it came to actually writing my own work, it had to be that. And maybe that's one reason why the contemporary was so difficult.
I know. I didn't even think about that.
But I have no idea. Yeah, because like, of course, like the false wolf, that's it's mythological creature. But in Catalina, there's always a mystery of if mermaids actually exist. It's very much grounded in reality.
Right. That would make sense why it was more difficult. Because like, you know, you have read some contemporary books in the past few months, and it's like you've enjoyed them, but it's been a lot more difficult for you to get through them than the other books that you've been reading.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Shout out to my book club. Let's go, Lexi. So yeah, like I feel like if the story that you have, or at least one of the stories you have, is within a genre you gravitate towards, that's another good indicator to decide to stick with it.
Yeah.
I mean, and another good one, the strongest foundation or clearest direction. Because like we've been talking on and on about having a bunch of different imaginations, letting your, I was literally going to say letting your daydream freak fly.
Let your daydream freak fly.
Let your daydream. Okay. But I have a statistic, 100%, that I just made up.
Okay.
That all female writers go to sleep by daydreaming. They have to think of a scene and play it out. And sometimes, most of the time, there's a rewind button.
Yeah.
Let's try this again from the top.
Yeah.
So because we're talking so much about having a large imagination, kind of figuring out which story idea you have with the strongest foundation or clearest direction will help you immensely when you decide to do the chapter by chapter outline.
Yeah.
If you're like me and a psycho, or, just like writing out those 3 questions in philosophy, like even though I had this idea of false wolf in my mind for so long, and I had like a couple of scenes in my mind play out dozens of times before, actually writing these answers out helped me transform the work in a completely new way and has rejuvenated my interest in actually potentially in pursuing this.
Yeah.
I'm too excited to talk.
You're too excited. You're alliterating. This potential planning has permeated my Pinterest.
I was trying to do the F for false wolf, where I was just like this fantastically freaky false wolf.
Whoa, that's a very different book.
Well, there's so many F words I can use on this podcast.
So I have to choose carefully.
Yeah. But yeah, like, again, girl, write it down. If you have the strongest foundation, like, are we even having this conversation? And then, like, finally, because of my experience with Catalina, like, is it fun? Are you enjoying what you're writing?
Yeah.
Because, like, yes, it's going to be difficult.
Yes.
There are going to be times where there's a writing drought and you are having writer's block, or you're unsure about how to proceed forward, or like there are definitely times where being a writer is very difficult, and there are times where you feel like I just need to take a step back, or even in some drastic cases, stop entirely.
Yeah.
I feel like if you are having a good time writing, and you will know the difference between having a moment where you need to really figure some things out, asking some questions in the mirror. That's how I figured out who the diviner was.
Yeah.
Fun facts, first draft.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that you started writing Unfortunate without knowing who the diviner was.
Well, that was when Unfortunate was called the diviner.
Right.
I actually wrote the entire book.
Yeah.
And I got to the end and I was like, now I need to really figure out who this diviner person is.
That's insane. But like now having read it, it's just like, oh, it's very clearly, but like, that's insane.
It's insane, but like it worked.
It did. It really did.
Not knowing that answer did not stop me from writing.
Right. Because it was fun.
It was fun.
It was difficult, but those are not diametrically opposed.
Yeah. I was determined, like my main character.
Yes.
I had everything else. So it was haunting me. I had themes I needed to share or explore. I had a young adult fantasy genre that I absolutely love.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very clear direction. I mean, obviously the big mysterious reveal of who the diviner was absent. But what's really amazing is that in your first draft, you don't have to know.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. And we're going to get into that into the next episode.
Oh my gosh.
When I get to talk to Ariel. I know.
It's so good.
It's a very
Y'all,
good.
just wait another month. It's going to be the best.
This is the prelude, essentially. We're hyping her up.
Yes.
But even though I didn't have all the answers, I was still able to write pretty much an entire book on its own and know that I'm going to go back and make it better.
Right.
And so, honestly, like, do some exercises where you try to write out a couple of scenes. It doesn't have to be in chronological order. It can literally be the scene that made you want to write this book in the first place, girly. You know what I'm talking about.
That is how you wrote Unravel and Unity. You literally started with the scenes you were most excited to write. And that was literally, it worked like a jump start.
Yeah.
Where like you were like, I remember you being so worried about both of them when you started and like very hesitant. But once you wrote that scene you were most excited for, you were off to the races, and it went from here's the concept that I'm excited about to, oh, I'm writing a book.
Yeah, because like that gives you a motivation. Like you want to lead your readers to that scene. And in Unravel, it was a very, very violent scene. And in Unity, it was finally getting to share the ending.
Yes.
Because, oh my gosh, that's also a good reason to finally write the story. I mean, it kind of goes in with haunting you, but if you want, raise your hand. If you want everyone to read the scene you are most excited about.
Yeah.
Like that is a huge motivator. Gosh, like to know the ending of my trilogy and not being able to share that with anyone for like 2 years because I had to write the books. Huge motivator.
Yeah.
Huge drive.
Yeah.
Cannot recommend it enough.
So again, just to kind of recap, first off, as you're trying to figure out what to write, start by asking the 3 questions about your main characters for each of your ideas and about the philosophy that you want to challenge.
Yeah, so that would be question 1, what does your character fear? Question 2, what does your character want? Question 3, what is your character willing to do to get what they want? And finally, what is your character's philosophy meant to be broken?
From there, you will have a pretty good idea about not only what is interesting about each of your concepts, but who the main character is and what the story is really going to be about.
Yeah, and if for some reason you can't answer any one of these questions, that is a really good indicator that you haven't really fully thought this story out well enough to start writing or to choose that one as the one that you're going to write.
Right. And again, you will also know which story to go for if it haunts you, whether through that themes or through that character or just through the concept itself. If it's a genre that you really like, if it has a very clear, strong foundation, and if it's actually fun to explore, all of those things are going to be great indicators to help you make your decision.
Elegantly said.
Now, Kailey, are you ready for some fun questions?
Oh, am I getting interviewed?
Yeah, you know what? You are.
Oh, no.
Let me see if I can remember them.
Okay, good luck.
What? Raise your hand. What is your go-to writing drink? The drink you like to have on hand when you are writing.
I always have iced coffee. Panic attack.
Correct.
Correct. I'm not taking a quiz. I'm answering a question. No, I always have iced coffee. I try to drink water, but it's not always successful.
But iced coffee is the constant.
Yes.
Question 2. What was the last book you gave 5 stars?
It was The Hedge Witch of Foxhall by Anna Bright.
Ooh.
She has the same last name as I do.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was completely enthralled by this book. Like, for those who love a good cover, I have to admit this is probably the prettiest cover I've ever seen. But it has like the same vibes as a cartoon saloon movie, but with Welsh folklore instead of Irish.
I love that.
That's all I need to tell you.
Yep, it's sold. And question 3, what is a song that you associate with your work?
Oh, goodness. I have an entire playlist for each book.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I believe, at least the first 2 on Spotify. I would say like my first immediate answer would be Thousand Eyes.
That was also my first immediate answer as well.
Thousand Eyes by Of Monsters and Men.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love their work. And in that song in particular, it's just a constant like brewing battle.
Yeah. And that I feel like describes your trilogy so perfectly.
Thank you.
This was fun.
This was fun.
You want to go get milkshakes now?
Maybe.